They're called the greatest generation, men and women from all walks of life who grew up in the Great Depression, led our nation to victory in World War II, and helped make America a beacon of freedom and democracy for all the world. And do they have some stories to tell? I'm pleased to be partnering with the New York State Military Museum and Veterans Research Center to preserve the words and memories of many of our World War II veterans. These stories will be entered into the state's archives, where they will be accessible to researchers, academics, and future generations. Our veterans have given so much to help build a brighter future for all Americans. This tribute is just one small way of saying thank you.
I signed up myself, basically. I was working at the time in Kingsford's machine shop as a machinist. And they had me out on leave because we were doing some work for Fitzgibbons's for the tanks. And they had me out on leave because of that.
Because of you enlisting?
No, because I was doing the machine work for the tanks, and they wanted to keep me on those parts. So they had me out on, what did they call it in those days? I don't remember.
Leave or?
Well, it wasn't leave, but I don't know what the hell they called it. I can't think of it. But anyway, they had me out on that, and I wasn't satisfied with that. So I called them up and asked them if I could enlist, even though I was out on this leave or whatever. And they told me absolutely. So I went down and I enlisted.
And what year was this?
I was in 43.
43, okay.
March of 43.
Okay. So what branch of the military did you end up serving in?
In the Army.
In the Army, okay. So where did you go for your basic training then?
I went to Camp Edwards, Massachusetts in those days for my basics.
And what were the, what was protocol there? What were some of the things that you were taught?
Well, naturally, combat, without any question. Infantry, maneuvers, and basically all had to do with combat. And which we did, naturally. Any
favorite memories from your time that you spent at basic training? Did you make any good friends?
Oh, made new friends, of course, and some of them from Corning, New York. Awful nice guys, and we got to be quite friendly, of course, and good friends, and they were great. They were great.
Now, how many weeks did you spend in Massachusetts for your training?
I'm thinking it was 8 weeks.
So a couple of months you spent there.
As I remember, yeah.
So once your training got all wrapped up, did you get a chance to go home and see your family before you were stationed elsewhere?
Yes, I did. I had a leave granted to me at that time, 30 days at home. And then, of course...
when you left home to go elsewhere, did you get a little teary-eyed? Family get a little bit nervous for you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. You betcha. Certainly was. And of course, going overseas, when I passed that Statue of Liberty, you couldn't believe the feeling that went over you.
What was the feeling?
Just, my God, this is my country and I'm leaving it. And the Statue of Liberty was just beautiful as we went out on the water.
Did it fill you with a sense of pride?
Oh, you better believe it. You better believe it. All pride, yeah. And I went over on the Queen Elizabeth, so it was only 3 days. Very short trip going over.
And where did you end up?
Glasgow, Scotland is where we landed, and then we went from there by train over to England and to the the channel there between England and France. And that was quite a different scene, of course.
How so?
Well, you saw guys that had been in combat, and they just seemed to be a different breed, which I guess they probably were, really. But we went right to over to Le Havre, France, and right on up from there, right on up into combat. And I was with General Patton's Third Army.
Oh, wow. Did you ever get a chance to meet or talk to Patton or anything like that?
Yeah, well, I had a chance to see him a few times in combat and out of combat, and respected the man tremendously. But I was only there, my God, I think it was only like 3 or 4 days in combat when I got wounded.
So what were you, what sort of combat were you involved in?
Well, infantry, basic individual combat, if you will. We had been in the woods, if you will, overnight near Luxembourg, and the next morning we come out of the woods, and there was a field in front of us with a hedgerow across, a ways away from us. And we started across the field, and from that hedgerow, machine gun fire erupted on us. And that's when I got hit. I got hit in the right arm, and it knocked my rifle out of my hand. And I went down, of course. And as I tried to get my compress to stop the bleeding, every move I'd make, they'd open fire on me. And I was down on the ground trying to get my compress out. And I couldn't get it because every move I'd make, he'd open fire. And the bullets went through my backpack. I heard them thud and hit and go right through the backpack.
Oh my gosh.
And I had my steel helmet on, and I had my head down with a steel helmet. And at times when I moved, he'd open fire, and the bullets would hit the dirt right in front of me underneath my helmet, and the mud would spurt right up from the bullets underneath of my helmet. And I'll tell you, I never done so much praying in all of my life as I did at that particular time. And
How did you get out of that situation?
well, we were attached to the 4th Armored Division. And all of a sudden, up came a tank, and the tank pulled right up in front of me in the hedgerow where they were firing. And the guy opened the hatch, and boy, I tell you, if I could have got him, I'd have kissed him right then and there. But anyway, he opened his hatch and he says, "The medics are coming right behind me, soldier, you stay right where you're at and don't worry about a thing." And he closed the hatch and he swung that turret around, and he literally blew that hedgerow boy to pieces. And then he opened the hatch and he says, you're all right, you can move or do whatever you want to do, but the medics are right behind you, they'll be here in a minute. And he took off in the tank, and sure enough, the medics were there right after he said that. And they cut my jacket off and everything, and gave me morphine and took care of my wounds and got me back to the ambulance. And then from the ambulance they took me into the Army hospital in Nice, France. And that I spent about a month there.
Wow.
after surgery and recuperating.
So what happened after your surgery and your recuperating time? Did you have to go back home, or?
No, what happened when that time came, the hospital notified my command unit that I was rehabilitated and ready for service. Did they want me back? Well, holy Christ, they were down the next day and picked me up, and right back up to the front I went.
Were you anxious to get back into action?
Oh no, I didn't want any part of it, I'll tell you. But you had to do what you had to do, of course, so back I went. And I was there until the end of the war, naturally.
And where were you exactly when you had heard the news that the war had ended? Or what were you doing?
Well, we were in Czechoslovakia at that point, and pulling duty, and we were pulling overnight duty, so to speak, because you had troops and everybody going all around, and you didn't know who was who. So we were more or less on patrol, keeping things where they should be, if you will. And that's when we got the news that the war had ended. And my God, we had just taken a town, and the town had a warehouse for cognac. And we were there at that warehouse, and it was loaded with cognac. And of course, the war ended, and our guys were hilarious, and I couldn't deny them the right, if you will, to enjoy some of that cognac, and boy, they had a wonderful time. And I was always proud of allowing them to do that. Of course, it was against the orders, but at that time you didn't think about the orders. You wanted to enjoy the moment, which we did. And our people were hilarious, which we all were. It was a great feeling. Yeah. And from there on, of course, I went to Frankfurt and got ready to come back to the United States. And the same feeling when I come back and saw that Statue of Liberty. Beautiful. But I do it again in a minute.